Hi everyone. In this video, we'll try to understand about variables in Java language. Okay. So Java is a very powerful language, right? So let's try to understand. What are variables in Java? So Java supports something known as static defined data type, right? So what do we mean by static defined data type? That we have to specify that what is the data type of this particular variable, right? Let's say what will be the value that we'll be storing in this variable X, right? So if we specify int, that means it can only store integer data type, right? It can only store 5, right? If we specify int x is equal to 10, right? It can store only integer data type, and what we are storing over here, we are storing 10, right? So we can also write int x. So right now we are not storing anything, right? So we write x is equal to 5, right? So now if we write x is equal to abc, it will throw an error, right? Because the memory has been allocated for integer data type. We cannot store something else, right? We cannot store 20 or 5.0 or a decimal value, right? We cannot store that, or a character, we cannot store that, right? We have to store the integer value, right? So we have to write, so this statement is wrong. We have to store x is equal to 10, right? So we can change the values, right? But we cannot store something else, right? We can only store integer data type. We cannot also write int x is equal to 10 again, right? Because the memory has already been allocated. And the memory allocation happens during compile time. That is the reason why it is known as static defined data type. Okay, let's try to play with these different operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication. Okay, so you can open any compiler, right? You can open any Java online compiler, right? So the first compiler that you get, okay, it's good enough, right? You can just type Java online compiler, whichever language you get, right? So right now I'm using JDoodle. You can also use the same, right? So don't worry about these other operations, right? The other operations about how to create a class, how to create a main method, everything will be taught to you in the step-by-step fashion, okay? So right now what we have to understand, what are variables, right? What are variables, right? So I write int x is equal to 10. So I created a variable x, I created a variable y. So whichever line you want to end, right? Whatever statement that you have done executing, you end it with a colon, right? You end it with a colon, right? That is how the compiler understands, okay, I'm done executing this particular line, right? So the ending statement has to be ended with a colon, right? So you write int y is equal to 25. So if you write z is equal to x plus y, you get the value, right? So now let's also try to understand different print statements, right? Print statements. So there are two types of print statements in Java, right? One is system.out.println. Okay. So println basically means that you're trying to print in a new line, right? And system.out.print, okay, without this ln, right? Basically means that your cursor basically points to the same place, right? Let's say if you print 5, right? Your cursor will point over here. Whereas let's say if you print 10 over here, after printing 10, your cursor will change to the new line, right? Let's try to understand why this, right? So let's say if I write system.out.println sum of x plus y is equal to z, right? So I will get sum of x plus y is equal to 35, right? So now if I print again, right? If I print this again, right? I will get it on separate two lines, right? I will get it on separate two lines. But now if I want to get it on the same line, I will remove this ln, right? I will remove this ln, right? I will get it on the same line. Okay, I will get it on the same line. Okay. So now one more thing which is very important. Let's say if I have a ln over here, then also I'll get it on the same line. Okay, but my cursor will actually point over here, right? It will point to a new line. So now if I print something else, right? If I print something else, it will be printed on a separate line, right? So it will be printed on the separate line. So I hope you have understood this print command. Okay, now let's try to play with different operations. Okay, so let me remove this also. Okay. So now let's say if I want to do multiplication, right? So if I write x into y, I should get 250. So let's see. Yes, I'm getting 250. So now there is something known as subtraction. So if 10 minus 25, I'll get minus 15, right? Now there is one more division sign. So the division that follows is basically integer division, right? Why integer division? Because the data type that we are specifying, it's of int, right? It's of int. So by default, so if we try to divide two numbers, right? If we try to divide 25 by 10, right? We'll get 2.5, okay? But we'll only retain the integer part, right? We'll only retain the integer part and we'll be left with 2, right? We'll be left with 2. So if we divide x divided by y, okay, so this will give us 0, right? This will give us 0 because the integer part is 0. So if we divide y divided by x, okay, so that is 2.5, only the integer part will be retained, and we'll end up having 2, right? Similarly, we can make it double, right? We can make it double, right? So if we make it double, right, so we'll get 2.5, right? We'll get 2.5. So how does this thing work, right? So the data type we get to know by the data type, right? What we are actually trying to divide. So this is double division, right? Okay. So now so if the data types are int, right, it will be integer division, right? We will only be retaining the integer part, right? So just try to play with these operations like multiplication, subtraction, division, right? And try to get comfortable using variables, right? So whichever part you guys face, any confusions, any queries you guys have, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions, any confusions, any queries. Thank you. Okay. And remember that I'll be teaching you all the parts. Okay. Don't worry. Okay. All these parts will be taught to you in a step-by-step fashion. Okay. Just one thing at a time. Okay. Okay, guys. Bye bye.